Okay, so I'm listening to this talk show, and it has a caller that is made the point about the NRA back in the day in '68 when that gun ban had been put into law, that they actually supported it. And so we have to question, is the NRA on the side of the right or the left, or the right or the wrong? Or are they one and the same? I would argue that possibly they are making the same, they're making different arguments that come to the same conclusion. They're both very radical arguments, but because you make such an outrageous claim that police with guns should be in our school, and nobody wants that, or nobody sensible, so obviously this gun ban is the alternative. So I would question the NRA, and Gun Owners of America I think is 100% legit. That's my take on that. I know that a lot of people will disagree with me, and I think for the most part, members of the NRA, of course, are pretty awesome and pretty right on as far as my observance of that. So I'm not saying everybody, but I think it's very strange that in this politically sensitive environment, they would go that extreme. They go from one extreme to the other, from totally not responding to responding with this, which, I mean, it's public relations that we're dealing with. If they really want to keep the Second Amendment, then they have to take into account that most people are not educated enough to know that guns protect you. We are brainwashed from birth to see guns as this terrible thing that only police are capable of using, which statistically that's wrong. But the normal public is not ready to handle that. So their position to me is suspect because it is so radical. And I think that it then pushes people that might not normally have supported the ban or more restrictions. They go, well, if the alternative is this crazy thing, a police state in our schools, then no, we don't want that. So we're going to go with the other people. And people, it is not one or the other. We could just keep it the way it is, or actually just go back to the way it should be and the way it was, which was that our rights are not to be infringed. They are God-given rights, and they are not to be infringed upon. And I would say that my position is the rational, logical one. Of course it's the right one because it is mine. But why don't we train people, the teachers, train them, give them training, even fund it. Why not? We fund everything else, to conceal carry if they choose to. And the key word is choose. There has to be freedom to do or not to do something. So I bet that moment that teacher was watching this horror take place in front of her, if she had had a gun anywhere near her, she would have grabbed it, and she would have been thankful for it. So I feel sorry for what she went through in those last moments, probably trying every way to defend herself and these children. And I would say that people who want to defend the children in their classroom and want to take this training should be allowed to. We allow them to mold and shape our young children, to have them for at least 8 hours a day, to mold everything that their young minds are capable of, that the values that they take on, all of this stuff is put in by the teachers. If we can trust them enough to do that, then I think it's absurd that we cannot trust them to protect our children, to have guns without accidentally shooting someone or going off on a rampage. I mean, that just doesn't, if they are respectable, responsible adults entrusted with our children, then I entrust them also with the privilege of defending them. The privilege, the right, and the duty to defend them. So that's my take on that. And I think that, if anything, our Second Amendment rights have already been infringed upon and need to be restored, not restricted. Also, just one other point I'd like to point out is that I just want people to stop for a moment with everybody going, it's this, it's that, it's video games, we need better mental health, we need to put in this legislation for that, we need to put in legislation for, gun restriction, we need to do all these things. I just want people to stop a moment and think. Because every time a crime happens, we do not then immediately